Hello and welcome back to Friday Reads, where we help you find your next read. I'm Jill.
And I'm Julie, and we've had 2 days of rain, so this week's topic is It Was a Dark and Stormy Night, books you'd like to read on a rainy, stormy day. So over to Jill for her first pick.
So my first one is Storm Chasers, for those of you who love storms and like to read about them while you're sitting inside. This is by Jenna Bloom. It was published in 2010. As a teenager, Karina George has always been the one to look out for her twin brother, Charles, who suffers from bipolar disorder. As Charles begins to refuse medication and his manic tendencies worsen, Karina finds herself caught between her loyalty to her brother and her fear for his life. Always obsessed with the weather, enraptured by its magical unpredictability that seemed to mirror his own impulses, Charles starts chasing storms, and his behavior grows increasingly erratic until a terrifying storm chase with Karina ends with deadly consequences, tearing the twins apart and changing both of their lives forever. 2 decades later, Karina gets a call from a psychiatric ward in Wichita, Kansas to come pick up her brother, whom she hasn't seen or spoken to for 20 years. And she soon discovers that Charles has lied to the doctors, taken medication that could make him dangerously manic, and disappeared again. Having exhausted every resource to try to track him down, Karina realizes she only has one last chance of finding him: the storms. Whenever the tornadoes are, that's where he'll be. Karina joins a team of professional storm chasers, passionate adventurers who will transform her life and give her a chance at love and redemption, and embarks on an odyssey to find her brother before he reveals the violent secret from their past and does more damage to himself or somebody else. So, yeah, storm chasers.
Kicking us off with Storm Chasers. My first pick are actually 2 books by Shirley Jackson. So the first one is The Haunting of Hill House, published back in 1959. It's a short book. Could easily read this on a rainy afternoon. It's the story of 4 seekers who arrive at a notoriously unfriendly house called Hill House. Dr. Montague, an occult scholar looking for solid evidence of a haunting. Theodora, the light-hearted assistant. Eleanor, a friendless, fragile young woman well acquainted with poltergeists, and Luke, the future heir who's going to inherit Hill House. At first, their stay seems destined to be merely a spooky encounter with inexplicable phenomena, but Hill House is gathering its powers, and soon it will choose one of them to make its own. This book has been hailed as a perfect work of unnerving fiction. So it sounds like a scary read for a rainy day. And another book by this author, which kept coming up on the lists, was We Have Always Lived in the Castle. So my name is Mary Catherine Blackwood. I am 18 years old, and I live with my sister, Constance. I have often thought that with any luck, I could have been born a werewolf, because the 2 middle fingers on both my hands are the same length, but I have had to be content with what I had. Sound intriguing? So, another short book by Shirley Jackson, which you may want to curl up and read on a rainy day.
And then you can watch the Netflix thing.
Yeah. The Haunting of Hill House is the Netflix series. So,
So this one I picked because it has rainy day on the cover, just looking out a window. This is Find Me by Alistair Burke. The disappearance of a young woman leaves her closest friend reeling, and an NYPD homicide detective digging into her own past as this thrilling mystery full of twists from the New York best-selling author of The Better Sister and The Wife. I don't know if we did The Wife last week.
Yeah, I think we did.
Some pasts won't stay forgotten. She calls herself Hope Miller, and she has no idea who she actually is. 15 years ago, she was found in a New Jersey town, thrown from an overturned vehicle, with no clue to her identity. Doctors assumed her amnesia was a temporary side effect of her injuries, but she never regained her memory. Hope eventually started a new life with a new name in a new town that welcomed her, yet always wondered what she may have left behind or been running from. Now, 15 years later, she's leaving New Jersey to start over once again. Manhattan defense lawyer Lindsay Kelly, Hope's best friend and one who found her after the accident, understands why Hope wants a new beginning. But she worries how her friend will fare in her new East Hampton home, far away from everything familiar. Lindsay's worst fears are confirmed when she discovers Hope has vanished without a trace, and the only lead is a drop of blood found where she was last seen. Even more ominously, the blood matches a DNA sample with the connection to a notorious Kansas murderer. In pursuit of answers, the women search for the truth beneath the long-buried secrets, and when their searches converge, that's where they will upend everything they've ever known. So, find me. Kind of a mystery kind of thing.
And I've got an author whose books we've done before. This one is Ruth Ware's In a Dark, Dark Wood, published in 2016. In a Dark, Dark Wood. Nora hasn't seen Claire for 10 years, not since Nora walked out of school one day and never went back. There was a dark, dark house. Until out of the blue, an invitation to Claire's hen do arrives. Is this a chance for Nora to finally put her past behind her? And in the dark, dark house, there was a dark, dark room. But something goes wrong, very wrong. And in that dark, dark room, some things can't stay secret forever. In the vein of Paula Hawkins' riveting national sensation, The Girl on the Train, and Gillian Flynn's modern classic, Gone Girl, this gripping thriller will have you on the edge of your seat until the very last page. So if you want a scary, scary book while you're curled up under that Afghan with your coffee on a rainy day, In a Dark, Dark Wood by Ruth Ware.
Ruth Ware's got a lot of good stuff.
Yeah, she's got good stuff.
So my next one is one of the short reads that you can sit in one sitting in the afternoon. It's called Supermarket by Bobby Hall, and it might make you feel better if you feel like you're not doing much, because this is about Flynn. Flynn is stuck, depressed, recently dumped, and living at his mom's house. The supermarket was supposed to change all that. An ordinary job and a steady check. Work isn't when it's saving you from itself. But things aren't quite what they seem in these aisles. Arriving to work one day to a crime scene, Flynn's world collapses as the secrets of his tortured mind are revealed, and Flynn doesn't want to go looking for answers at the supermarket because something there seems to be looking for him. This is a darkly funny psychological thriller. So that happens in a supermarket, which is just so strange. So, yeah.
Interesting setting for the thriller.
Yeah, I'd say.
My third pick is a book I've done before, but I had to include it because I still say it's one of the scariest books I ever read, and that is Stephen King's The Shining. Jack Torrance's new job at the Overlook Hotel is the perfect chance for a fresh start. As the off-season caretaker at the atmospheric old hotel, he'll have plenty of time to spend reconnecting with his family while working on his writing. But as the harsh winter weather and the snowstorms set in, this idyllic location feels ever more remote and ever more sinister. And the only one to notice the strange and terrible forces gathering around the Overlook Hotel is Danny Torrance, a uniquely gifted 5-year-old son of Jack. Like I said, this, I think, is one of the scariest books I ever read. This book actually has a follow-up. I have the audio book of it. It's Dr. Sleep. Stephen King returns to the characters and the territory of The Shining. In Dr. Sleep, middle-aged Dan Torrance, who's no longer Danny, but now he's Dan, and the very special 12-year-old girl he must save from a tribe of murderous paranormals are the main characters in the follow-up. So I never read Dr. Sleep, so I should probably pursue that sometime. But Stephen King's The Shining.
I watched both movies and they were super creepy. It was so fun. Okay, so while you're sitting inside reading your book, you might wonder about your neighbors. This is The Neighbor's Secret by L. Allison Heller. How well do you know your neighbors? With its sprawling yards and excellent schools, Cottonwood Estates is the perfect place to raise children. The Cottonwood Book Club serves as the subdivision's eyes and ears, meeting once a month for discussion, gossip, and cocktails. If their selections trend towards twisty thrillers or salacious murder mysteries, it's only because the members feel secure that such evil has no place in their own cul-de-sacs. Or does it? What happened to Lena's family 15 years ago was a tragic accident, and she will never admit otherwise. Devoted wife and mother Anna refuses to acknowledge, even to herself, the weight of a past shame, and new resident Jen wants friends. But as always, worry about her troubled son gets in her way. When late-night acts of vandalism target the women of the book club in increasingly violent and personal ways, they will be forced to decide how far they will go to keep their secrets. At least they will all agree on what's the most important, protecting the children at any cost, even if it means someone has to die.
Oh, boy. My fourth pick is called Unspeakable Things by Jess Laurie, published in 2020. This is inspired by a terrifying true story from the author's hometown. It's a heart-pounding novel of suspense about a small Minnesota community where nothing is as quiet or as safe as it seems. Cassie McDowell's life in 1980s Minnesota seems perfectly wholesome. She lives on a farm, she loves school, she has a crush on the nicest boy in class. Yes, there are her parents' strange parties and their parade of deviant guests, but she's grown accustomed to them. But all that changes when someone comes hunting in Lilydale. One by one, local boys go missing. One by one, they return, but they're changed. They're violent, moody, and withdrawn. What happened to them becomes the stuff of shocking rumors. The accusations of who's responsible grow just as wild, and dangerous town secrets start to surface. Then Cassie's own sister undergoes the dark change. If she is to survive, Cassie must find her way in an adult world where every sin is justified and only the truth is unforgivable. So, inspired by a terrifying true story. So, if you want to read about a kind of scary premise that's happening in Minnesota, check out Unspeakable Things. I wasn't familiar with that author or that book.
Oh, that's different. I picked a nonfiction as well, because I got on this secrets kick of what is going on with other people's houses and neighbors and things like that when I'm thinking about rainy days. This one's called If You Tell by Greg Olson. After more than the full title is If You Tell, a True Story of Murder, Family Secrets, and the Unbreakable Bond of Sisterhood. So it's about 3 girls that are sisters. After more than a decade, when sisters Nikki, Sammy, and Tori Knocknet hear the word mom, it claws like an eagle's talons, triggering memories that have been their secret since childhood, until now. For years, behind the closed doors of their farmhouse in Raymond, Washington, their sadistic mother, Shelley, subjected the girls to unimaginable abuse, degradation, torture, and psychic terrors. Through it all, Nikki, Sammy, and Tori developed a defiant bond that made them far less drawn into their mother's dark and perverse web. The sisters found the strength and courage to escape an escalating nightmare that culminated in multiple murders. So, yeah, this mom's like a thing here. So, If You Tell.
My last pick is one of our popular authors here at the Kimberly Library. I have Dean Koontz's What the Night Knows, published back in 2010. This is another scary one. In the late summer of a long ago year, a killer arrived in a small city. His name was Alton Turner Blackwood, and in the space of a few months, he brutally murdered 4 families. His savage spree ended only when he himself was killed by the last survivor of the last family, a 14-year-old boy. Half a continent away and 2 decades later, someone is murdering families again, recreating in detail Alton Turner Blackwood's crimes. Homicide detective John Calvino is certain that his own family, his wife and 3 kids, will be targets in the 4th crime, just as his parents and sisters were victims on that distant night when he was 14 and killed their slayer. As a detective, John is a man of reason who deals in cold facts, but an extraordinary experience convinces him that sometimes death is not a one-way journey, that sometimes the dead return. Here is a ghost story like no other you have read. In the Calvinos, Dean Koontz brings to life a family that might be your own in a war for their survival against an adversary more malevolent than any he has yet created, with their own home, the battleground. Of all his acclaimed novels, it was said that none exceeds What the Night Knows in power, in chilling suspense, and in sheer mesmerizing storytelling. And there is a novella that precedes this book called Darkness Under the Sun, if those sound interesting to you, if you want to scare yourself on a rainy day.
I like the idea of a ghost story on a rainy day. When you're stuck inside the house with the ghosts. Well, we hope that we have some ideas for what you can read the next time you have a rainy day that you can spend reading.
Like, comment, share. We always like to hear from you. Look for our video on our Kimberly Public Library website or on our Facebook page, and share with your friends. Let us know what you're reading. Looking forward to an exciting summer of oceans of possibilities. Next week, you'll catch Jill and I at the beach to talk about our summer reading program. So thanks for watching, everybody. Bye.